Hey, how you going? I do hope and pray that you're all doing well, and just in these interesting times when we can't connect face to face, that you're still yeah, staying safe, and at the same point still being able to find time to connect with God. Now more than ever, we need to maintain our walk with God. And as Christians, we always find sooner or later that we are actually in a battle. The Christian life is full of so many different adventures, but ultimately, there is this battle going on for each and every one of us. And we discover that, we need to be prepared. We need to ensure that, we are prepared for the battle that we find. And ultimately, we know that, we are facing someone who is powerful, And so I just pray that over the next few weeks, I want to dig into a pretty amazing chapter in Ephesians chapter 6. And let's have a look at how we can protect ourselves, what God has given us to defend ourselves during these crazy times. And let's have a look in Ephesians chapter 6, and we're going to read from verse 10. I'm going to start with the first couple of verses. So from 10, it says, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armour of God, so you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." And then this is the key. "Therefore put on the full armour of God, so that then when the day of the evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand." So verse 14. "So stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist." And we're going to start with the belt of truth today. The belt is really important. Belts can come in many different shapes and sizes, from the very simple to the very extravagant. You can have a belt which is as simple as a piece of rope. It still does the main job of holding the pants up, even if it doesn't look or feel that nice. Some belts are made of cloth. Some belts are made of leather. We use them to keep our pants up, to make sure that our clothes look nice. But then there are also some special belts. Belts that keep us safe. Harnesses. Then there are belts that also mean something. The sort of belt that you can't buy. These are the kind of belts that you win. Cassius Clay is probably the most famous boxer of all time. He's known today as Muhammad Ali. He's remembered for a few things. One is that he would trash talk his opponents before every single fight. He once said to someone, "If you even dream of beating me, you'd better wake up and apologize." He even wrote long poems about how he was going to beat his opponents and give them to them just before the fight. He also would tell people how good he was. "I'm so fast that last night I turned off the light switch in my hotel room and was in bed before the room was even dark." But he wasn't just famous for his smart mouth, he also was famous for being a great boxer. He was the first person to be a world champion 3 years in a row. And in his 20-year career, he only recorded 5 losses. When he had badmouthed his opponents, it wasn't just empty boasting, he actually backed it up. But he didn't only just say funny things, he had a sharp mind that was often looking for the truth in different things. He once said, "A man who views the world the same at 50 as he did when he was 30 has wasted 30 years of his life." Or so as he did when he was 20, has wasted 30 years of his life. He wasn't courageous enough to take the risk and accomplish nothing in life. "I wish people would love everyone else the way they love me. It would be a much better world." Looking over his career, it seems that he had more than one focus. One was the boxing. His belts were the prize and proof of his winning. But another seems to be his search for truth. Ali was a man who believed in a definite truth, and he searched for that time and time again. When we have a look back in Paul's writings in Ephesians, Paul was speaking the language of the people. They would understand what he was talking about when he was using this image of armor of God, and in particular of the belt of truth. The Roman belt was a crucial element to the Roman armor. It actually formed the central piece of his armor. It actually held the rest of the armor together securely. The belt was broad, it composed of sturdy leather, and from it hung an overlapping skirt of leather straps, which is almost like an apron, on which were also decorative rivets. And also from the belt hung some specialized hooks and holders on which to secure the scabbard, which contained the dagger, the quiver which held lances, and an apparatus to rest the large battle shield upon. Also on the belt were clips with which to hold the breastplate in its proper place. Supplies of bread, oil, and water were also in the belt. Now, Romans were actually believed to wear at least 3 kinds of belts, or girdles. First one was the breech-like leather, which was worn to protect the lower abdomen, and ultimately to protect the fighter's important parts. If that got damaged in the battle, he'd just go down like a sack and couldn't move anywhere. The second one was the sword belt, which was buckled on together with the sword as the decisive step in the process of preparing oneself for battle. And the third belt was one that actually then distinguished or designated an officer or a high official. And it's pretty amazing when you actually have a look at these belts. But ultimately, these belts kept everything else together. Without the belt on, the armor would just flap around and it would just be useless in battle. You imagine running through the battlefield with the heavy armor that you have on, the heavy mesh, and just having it flap around. Without that belt to keep it secure, you wouldn't be able to do anything. And in the Bible, we see truth is linked to this idea of a belt. And like a belt, truth can be used to keep everything else together. In the Christian life, there's many things to think of. Faith, salvation, making sure that we're following in Christ's footsteps, and much more. And ultimately, everything that we do as a Christian is held together by truth. As well as that, truth is like a boxing belt. You can't just buy it. You can't just take it from someone else. You have to go and you have to get it from God. It's a gift that He gives us. It's a gift that we get. There are many people who would try and just give you their belt, their truth. But ultimately, we have to discover it for ourselves. And the truth is there. God is giving it to us. But we have to make sure that it's not just been passed on from someone else. We can't listen to others. And ultimately, we have to search for the truth, God's truth, and discover it for ourselves. And I pray that we do that constantly, that we search through His Word, and that we come to know who God is and ultimately the great gift of Jesus. This is my prayer for you.